Back in this corner, there should be markers just lined up where they started. Back in this corner, they should be lined up everywhere, all the way back over 200 and some feet in that direction. You can see a lot of indentations for graves, but you just don't see the markers. And then occasionally you will spot one that I kind of dug out a little bit. It's a little example. You just about have to poke around. There's another one. About 270 more of these out here. Looks like a name. Robert. Robert Hale. Cemetery 4. That's the kind of condition that we're dealing with here. Robert Hale. 270 more of these out here. Well, after a whole lot of digging, we have uncovered the stone marker for Robert Holt. He was a Holt. He was from Cemetery 1, which puts him at Pointer, and he was grave number 76. You can see from ground level how much these have disappeared and sunk down into the ground. There's one. About 260 more to go. And next door we got Vernon, also from Pointer, Vernon Holt. So there's a couple of them, but you kind of see the magnitude of the situation. They should be lined up all the way down through here. If my estimating is correct, there should be another one right down in here. There's a marker that's come loose. It says unknown. As most of them did, which is probably the reason no one cared. It's the edge of the stone there, the edge of the marker right there. I'm not sure the cemetery plate is still on it, but we'll do some more digging. Well, I'm clearing it out a little bit more. See, the hex head bolt system, rust-proof bolt hex head nut didn't work too well, but it also doesn't speak too highly of the facility that allowed these to run down. Somewhere in the Knox County Clerk's office a few weeks ago, I was researching, and there's a document on file that stated that this place would be a perpetual care cemetery. I don't know what perpetual care means to the ownership here. Well, got another one dug up out of the ground. The marker says unknown, and the identification plate for the cemetery and grave number is gone. But if you follow the order of the procedure, this is Mr. Vernon Holt, Cemetery 1, grave 77. That over there was grave 76. So this would have been Pointer Cemetery 1, grave 78, because a total of 89 came out of Pointer. And once again, you can see at ground level just how much they have sunk and grown over. After a little bit of digging, we did uncover 3 from Pointer. And you see there's these 3 in a perfect line. They should continue right over through here. They should be everywhere. There's a definition of the graveyard just piling on. I mean, they're just literally dumping dirt on top of invisible markers. But 3 down. And the marker that's laying right here, I found just tossed over to the side. It was unknown Cemetery 1, grave 3. According to the layout, it should be probably back in section A where they started, back in there. So it was just sort of tossed along the fence row back there. Section A marker and the 3 that I have dug up right there. This back section here would have been section A, and the way the plat laid out, section A just sort of went over to the right here and lined up with this fence row, and then right back there. So this area in here would have been section A. From that section A marker, section B marker was just kind of laid out on the ground. It's been chipped and beaten and banged and unearthed. So I don't know if this is where section B started, but once again you see that the cemetery just piling additional dirt onto covered markers throughout this section B area, and then there was a section C all the way back there. I do know from talking to a friend of mine that they came out and set this stone for Hulda Whitman, who died in 1910. They realized that she was here, and they set a modern stone because it was ancestors of a friend of mine. Another modern stone was set. G.W. Whitman, same family. Just see lots of indentations. These 3 stones, L.A. literal. The one in the middle is a literal. I think it's Willie literal and Jesse Solomon literal. 3 of the people who actually had their own stones, and they were originally buried at Rogers Ford. If you watched video number 1, you know that they were originally buried about 200 feet right off the Flatwoods boat ramp. At least they're being cared for. I was talking to a neighbor a few minutes ago who said this was awfully terribly grown up about 5 or 10 years ago, and he said he raised enough cane that they finally came in here and cleaned it up. So apparently it used to be much worse as far as just being able to walk around is concerned. But some of the visible markers, Cemetery 6, that was Rogers, the Flatwoods area. Another one, Cemetery 6. But as you can see, it's just a shame that they've been allowed to completely disappear. What do you do? Where do you start? It would be a major job. Someone come out here and do some metal detecting, because you could find those bolts, zone in on these graves. Back in here in the corner, you see several indentations back in here. And there are markers for all of them. But you'd have to take a metal detector and find those bolts and then uncover them. And it would just be a whole lot of work. These are broken stone here. Daughter of J.E. Delph. This is no doubt from the Delph Cemetery over in the Walker Branch area. And here's an example of one that's still got the plate on it. Cemetery 7 was legal, the mouth of Rogers Creek. That one's just been dug completely out of the ground. There it sits. Really probably would have been better if they'd have just set them all on top of the ground like that rather than bury them 8 or 10 inches in the ground. Laurel Lake Cemeteries, final resting place. 288 individuals. I spent most of my time back here on the section A of the reinterment site. Dug up another one here, unknown cemetery 1, grave 12, which means there's 11 more going back that way. There's one that's up out of the ground. So there's about 13 in this row. And of course, section A was largely full of graves from Pointer. And you see that the problem is immense. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below. And anyone who wants to pitch in and find some way to clean up all these old markers and honor these people, just feel free to message me with your contact information. Relocated from their final resting place in an area that became Laurel Lake, only to be placed in an area where they were forgotten and neglected here at Rest Haven in Corbin. Hopefully the story won't end here. Thanks for watching.